Today's video is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/MagzTV or click the link in the video description down below. G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to IL-2 Stromovik, the Battle of Stalingrad, or should I say the Battle of Kuban, because that is officially where we are up to now. As of last night's patch drop, we now have not only the Heinkel HS129, affectionately known as the Duck, but we also now have the Kuban map. So today we're going to be taking a look at this map and a look at the Duck. This is not by any means a review, this is actually my second time flying the Duck out to see exactly what it's like, and it is an interesting bird to fly. So the standard loadout of this version of the Duck are 7.7mm machine guns and MG151s. In addition to this, I fitted the reverse mirror, two 50kg bombs mounted underneath the wings, and the machine cannon 103 mounted in the centerline position under the belly of the aircraft. And yes, those are the runway air raid sirens going off in the background. The runway is coming under attack right as we are departing. But we do have a flight of escorts that are already floating around, and they're currently moving to engage those fighters, so we should be fine to exit our way out of the area. So, our primary objective of this particular mission is to fly to an enemy airfield and, well, to bomb some buildings and strafe out any ground targets we find. You know, pretty standard ground attacker type stuff. Well, at least that was the plan. Things didn't quite work right. Being this is the first iteration of the map, I think it may have just been a bug. But, well, small spoiler ahead. There is something that happens over at the runway, and we'll get to that soon enough, but the actual airfield itself didn't actually spawn in any targets for us to destroy, which was unfortunate. But I did most certainly make up for it. So, having cleared the runway, let's take a look at the map of Kuban and have a look at our actual mission zone for today. So, this is a map of the Kuban region. Now, today's flight we're going to be starting in the northwest, and we're going to travel down over the open water down to the peninsula to our southeast, and that's where we'll be striking the airfield. And the plan is to then turn around and return home. I'm not going to lie and say that we actually make it back. We don't, as you'll see. But the flight time, just to give you an idea of the scale of this map, to fly from the runway to the target zone, engage in a little bit of combat, and then make it halfway back, was 28 minutes total. Now granted, the Duck is not the fastest bird at the racetrack, but that is still a bloody long flight for a fairly short distance. Overall, it should give you a fairly good idea on the exact scale of this map. In fact, this map is so large and actually has such variance in terrain, I'm probably going to have to do a couple of missions just like this one, just from different parts of the map, so you can get a look at each of the different sections of terrain from a different area overall. This particular area is largely flat, it's rolling plains. Once we get across the harbour and the bay area and we get out into the peninsula, you'll see it's all divided off into some fairly noticeably well set up farming space. All of it is very well sectioned off. Exactly what you would expect to see flying over a rural farming community or a rural farming area. And I do also have to say it is absolutely fantastic to look out the window and actually see green and blue rather than white and brown. The maps for Stalingrad and Moscow were beautiful in their own way, but I do like this kind of a look. So at this point we're just about to hit the shoreline onto the Kerch Strait. We're currently a little bit south of the town of Kerch right now. And if we look off a little bit to the left and ahead of the gun site, you'll actually see Tuzla Island. Tuzla Island's actually a little bit of an interesting history, and it goes up to even more recent times. But in World War II, Germany had a plan to speed up the invasion of the region by building a bridge across the Kerch Strait. The bridge would have left the area that we were flying over around about now, would have cut across to Tuzla Island, gone southeast down Tuzla Island, and then cut across to the spit west of the town of Tarnan on the coast. Now, they actually started to try and build this bridge, but obviously things went wrong for them in this region, so they ended up destroying what little of the bridge that they had built in the process of their retreat. but they didn't destroy the building materials that were required to build the bridge. After the Crimea was liberated by the Red Army in the summer of 1944, Soviet forces actually took those building materials and built the bridge themselves, as it would have been quite a convenience. And it was, for about 6 months. After 6 months, winter kicked in, and the waters in the region started to freeze, large chunks of ice started to float around the area, and the bridge itself was actually destroyed by these ice flows. And if we look down to the left-hand side at the moment, we'll see a couple of ships operating in the area. That is actually a small Russian submarine. I don't actually know the type off the top of my head, I'm sad to say, and a Russian destroyer. We'll be getting a much closer look at those very, very soon. Not that the destroyer isn't trying to get my attention at the moment. Most of these flak bursts you're seeing going off around the aircraft at the moment are actually coming from its anti-aircraft guns, so they've got quite the range on them. The detailing on the boats, as you'll see soon, is actually quite impressive. I'm very happy with everything I've seen on this map so far, if it's not already abundantly clear. Anyways, we're going to jump a little bit ahead, because while the water itself is extremely beautiful to fly over, we want to get moving. So, having completed our crossing of the Kerch Strait, we are now just to the west of the town of Tarman. We're going to make a turn across the top of the town, as our runway or target area is just to the south side of the town. And now, having made it over what is effectively the mainland for the area of the conflict, you can see the change in terrain type already, where the location we started at was far more open rolling plains. Forest appeared to be entirely natural, with roads just running through the region. Here you can clearly see the area is divided up and boxed off into square parcels of farmland. This is actually one of my favourite parts about the Kuban map over the other maps that are available in IL-2 at this time. If you take the map for Battle of Stalingrad or the map for Battle of Moscow and you set it to any type of year, it doesn't really matter which one, and you were to drop a player randomly over a position without giving them access to a map, and then ask them roughly where were they on that map in relation to everything else, just by looking at the terrain features below them at a time, they probably wouldn't be able to tell you, because for the most part the terrain is uniform. You need to start looking for specific parts of the map that will give you landmarks in order to work out roughly where you were. And it's exactly the same story with the Battle of Moscow map. For the most part, the map is uniform. You would need to be looking for specific parts of the map with specific terrain features to work out where you are. On the Battle of Kuban map, different regions of the map have clear defining characteristics for that region they're in. This particular part is heavy farmland, so everything is parceled off into nice squares, as you see. Where we started from, far more open rolling plains surrounded by water on both sides. It feels almost like an island. If you were to spawn further south, clearly you're over a large body of water, so that's really a gimme. But to the southeast of the map, you're in mountainous terrain, so the mountains and hills give away your location. Depending on where you go on the map, you will find different terrain elements in each area, which helps the map itself feel more like a living space where you are travelling a distance rather than simply flying over the same terrain over and over again. And while I know the terrain in the previous maps is incredibly accurate, it's not incredibly varied. This I'm really enjoying. In my opinion, the Kuban terrain is actually going to be a massive boon for those servers that run pure sim settings. That is, those settings where the map will not give your aircraft's location. Because each area has its own distinct feel and each area is separated from all other areas, and the map itself having such distinct landmarks and features, navigating just off instrumentation and by simply looking out the window and seeing what you can see is going to be far easier on this map than it has been on any of the others in the past, even long distance navigation. I'm actually looking forward to trying loading up a HE111 and trying to navigate one side of the map all the way to the other to hit a bombing target, turn around and navigate all the way back without actually seeing any map outside of the briefing screen. So anyways, we're lined up for our target run on the runway, and I've already noticed on my first pass that, as I said earlier on in the video, nothing seemed to have spawned in. As much as this was a target zone designed for us to ground attack, there is nothing there on the ground at all. But I still do have a couple of 50-kilogram bombs strapped underneath these wings, so I figured I'd take an attack run at these hangars anyway, and test out how the bombing sight here actually works. So I'm just lining up on the left-hand side of the sight. Bomb 1 and 2 are released, and surprisingly these seem to work reasonably well. I think I estimated my speed slightly wrong. The bombs felt slightly short of where I wanted them to go, but they were close enough that, you know, it'll do. So 2 hangars destroyed, but of course as there are no other ground targets to hit, there is nothing else for me or the flight of ducks that I'm with at the moment to actually engage. Or at least that's what I thought. See, as I also mentioned at the start of the video, our runway was coming under attack the second we were trying to take off, and we did have a small flight of BF-109G2s floating around in order to defend the runway, but apparently they missed a couple of aircraft, and apparently those couple of aircraft came from this location. Now, of course, the whole reason to set up this particular mission was to test the ground attack capabilities of the Duck and just see how it performed in that role. Flying Yak-1s are not exactly what I would consider ideal ground targets, but when nothing else presents itself, beggars cannot be choosers. So, tipping in on the Yak-1. Now, as I am configured for ground attack, most of the guns are set to a 600 meter convergence on the gun sight. However, because most of the weapons are mounted in the nose or on the center line of the aircraft, such as the Machine Cannon 103, this doesn't really matter all that much. If I can get the shots to go down the center, the Yak's going to feel it. Now, I did get what looked like one impact there before, but it didn't seem to do anything to the aircraft. Just working out exactly how to aim the guns on these first couple of shots here, while also grabbing a bit of a feel for exactly how hard the Duck can actually turn. And the answer is quite hard. There we go, good hit there. Miss on that burst, retake the lead. That one looked far more promising. Splash 1. In that turn, I wasn't actually applying full stick back either in order to be able to make it. This thing turns incredibly well, and surprisingly stable as well. I didn't lose a whole lot of altitude or speed in that engagement. Then again, the Duck didn't have a whole lot of speed to begin with. And a second Yak-1 presents itself, and this one here looks like it's going to try and pass overhead, so I take a lead and pull the trigger, and this one I don't need to practice any further shots on. Splash 2. And I was almost impressed with myself here. The crashing Yak lands almost perfectly straight down the street, so it doesn't take out any of the surrounding houses. So, since there was nothing else to take care of in the target zone, I decided it was time to bring these duckies back home. So as we get ready to bring this video into a close, there has been another announcement that recently popped up on the IL-2 server not long after this patch went live that I think some of you are going to be fairly interested in. Everyone always likes the development of new aircraft. Well, it looks like the LA-5FN and the BF-109G6 have both been confirmed in development at this time, along with the P.O.2 that is currently being developed by a third party. There is also talk about a German recon aircraft that will run alongside the P.O.2, and what they're talking about at this point is taking part of the artillery spotter mechanic that is present in Rise of Flight and actually adapting it to IL-2, and that will be the feature that these aircraft actually operate, allowing them to call in artillery strikes on ground targets. It also looks like the Lusanov Li-2 will be joining the Ju-52 as the Russians' transport aircraft, counter the Germans' Ju-52 transport aircraft, giving Russian forces access to the same logistics missions that Germany currently enjoys. This is excellent news as far as I'm concerned, because I actually quite like trying to pull off these logistics missions, and, well, quite simply, if the Russians have access to a logistics aircraft as well, it's more likely that both sides are going to have missions based around trying to transport supplies into an area. This is fantastic news for everyone involved. Anyways, ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you very much for watching. As always, if you would like to help support the channel, you can check out my sponsor in the video description down below. It is Audible. Audible is the best place to go online for audiobooks, and you can check them out at www.audibletrial.com/MagzTV. Or if you would like to help support the channel directly, the link to my Patreon is in the video description down below. Thank you to all my Patreon supporters who have supported me over the years. It is fantastic, and it's really the main reason why I'm still kicking around at this point. And until next time, ladies and gents, click that like button, subscribe if you want to see more, and as always, fly smart, fly safe, and I will catch you in the skies. And yeah, by fly smart, I don't mean do this. Yeah, many regrets.